Welcome back. I'm Elena Rusk. The Borel Fire, the largest in Kern County history, is still 95% contained, but not without lasting consequences. Some 233 structures were destroyed, dozens of people displaced, and untold numbers of pets and possessions lost. 17's Robert Price spent 2 weeks following the movement of this historic fire, the efforts to conquer it, and the fire's lasting fallout. He rode along with firefighters and spoke to survivors to file this report.
The largest wildfire in Kern County history continues to smolder in the vast Kern County outback, weeks after a single vehicle wreck ignited dry grasses amid the hottest July on record. 1,500 fire and law enforcement personnel from dozens of agencies, state, local, neighboring state, and federal, worked the front lines, even as wildfires up and down California continued to rage from Eureka to Riverside. This is the Borel Fire, a 60,000-acre swath of incinerated southeast central California, made vulnerable by decades of drought and now, ever more so, climate change. Not every structure in the path of the Borel Fire could be saved, far from it, but the most important goal, the protection of life, has remained intact. Ironically, perhaps the biggest challenge to that goal, saving lives, played out on the third day of the fire, when, in the course of trying to roust reluctant residents from their endangered homes, 2 Kern County Sheriff's deputies, a U.S. Forest Service officer, and an unidentified deputy trainee found themselves surrounded by flames.
14, we can't get out.
The mounting seriousness of their circumstances dawned on the 4 law enforcement professionals one fiery roadblock at a time, as this body cam video provided by the Sheriff's Department demonstrates. It was about 4:30 p.m. when the 4 men, all working in the dry, grassy hills above historic Havilah, found their paths blocked on all sides. Cliff Pete, a Walker Basin resident and 20-year county firefighter, knows those roads well, but knew he wasn't going to be able to get his engine up there, given the conditions.
I knew that road was very narrow, and if we met somebody coming the other way, there's no way we'd be able to turn a fire engine around and escape together. And at that point, visibility down on the pavement where I was down to feet. 10 feet or less because of smoke. We couldn't see anything. So the battalion chiefs went up in their much smaller vehicle, a pickup, because they would be able to get in and out faster.
Marcus Rodriguez and Luke Roberts pulled away from their normal battalion chief duties to help manage this gargantuan effort, careened along a dirt road toward the stranded men who had radioed in their coordinates from their tenuous position at the end of a remote dirt road. As the battalion chiefs bounced along the mountainside, orange hot embers flew sideways from the north, slapping against the sides of their truck. What they were experiencing, as this video taken by firefighters on the front lines shows, was a phenomenon they call the blowtorch effect. And now the Borel blowtorch was making it extraordinarily difficult. They could only wonder what the trapped sheriff's deputies might be thinking as the fire closed in on them. The Forest Service officer pulled out 2 Nomex flame-resistant jackets and 2 blanket-like fire shelters and handed them out. By this time, the 4 trapped men had driven to a clearing to avoid the rapidly spreading flames, hoping they might be more visible to rescuers, whether on the road or in the air. It had already been a long day for the firefighters.
That fire in 2 days had ripped up the canyon and started ripping this way over Breckenridge, and we knew it was going to come down into the Havilah community.
It happened faster than they could have expected. A safety officer surveying the fire's movement from a distance broke in on the radio with the news.
And he announces emergency traffic. The fire has come into Havilah. It has jumped the road, and at one point he actually used the term hostile fire environment.
Hostile fire, headed straight for Kern County's most iconic Old West ghost town. Little of Havilah remained after fire destroyed most of the once bustling boomtown in the 1920s. Now, fire was coming for what little was left.
It was just a bad afternoon. It got really hectic and kind of scary really fast.
They just started cutting the trees that were down in the middle of the road so we could get people out, because we knew there were still people in here who shouldn't be there, and they really didn't have time to evacuate.
The replica schoolhouse right here caught fire, but the strike team was good to the task. Flames shot up from below the front porch, so firefighters cut this hole in the floor and were able to extinguish the entire building. Then a more urgent call. It was the 4 trapped men, the deputies, the trainee, and the Forest Service officer.
Hey, Cliff, do you know where that place is that the KTSO is West Virginia help? I do. We can check it out, but that's not a good place to be.
Finally, the 2 battalion chiefs got past burning obstacles on the road and advanced to where the 4 trapped men could see them.
We caught like a faint flash of red lights.
There were handshakes and hugs, thank yous, and modest shrugs. Then the battalion chiefs led them the rest of the way out of the conflagration.
We're going home. Come on, we're gonna get out of here. We gotta get out of here.
Their task successful, Rodriguez and Roberts called their strike team together.
Kind of took a tactical pause to get our head back in it because what everybody had just experienced was something that they had never experienced and probably will never experience again.
If the crew needed a morale boost, they got one. A grateful, abandoned dog, injured by the flames, turned up just as the men were refilling their depleted reserves of stamina. In the days that followed, county firefighters were really able to take inventory of Havilah, what had been destroyed and what little had been spared. Daniel Gonzalez lost everything as the fire raced through Havilah, and he says he has no fire insurance.
I got my cats barely out of the house, 3 of them. My other cat got away and went outside, but I know he died because the fire was completely around engulfed. I lost everything.
A stoic but presumably grateful bull named Curly, his broad white face yellowed with grime and soot, dined on newly delivered freshly cut hay in the shade of a cluster of scorched trees not 100 feet from a burned-out sedan.
And if you're wondering why some motorhome back here stood standing when everything else around it burned, we wonder the same thing.
Kern County is no stranger to the random cruelty of wildfires. Practically every year for the past 15, Kern County has had a wildfire of at least 1,600 acres. But the Borel Fire was 37 times that size at nearly 60,000 acres. Dozens of agencies, both in and out of California, were on the scene of the Borel Fire. They won, but they know another fire is just over the next hillside.
That's the life of a firefighter. That's what we do. We understand that this is wildfire season. Many of these firefighters not only have worked for close to a month straight, but they're also going to continue to keep going because there are going to be more fires.
Because here in the arid West, wildfire is a constant companion we've learned to live with. In Havilah, Robert Price, 17 News.